Know the difference with Annex Wealth Management? Class is in session. Let's welcome the professor to the podium, Brian Jacobsen. Oh, Dr. Brian Jacobsen, Chief Economist, Annex Wealth Management. Hey, Brian.
Hey, it's great to be here.
So for a lot of us, the challenge on the way to retirement is being diligent in saving and investing. Really nice to see those account balances grow. Kind of sobering when they took some knocks from time to time. But it's gratifying to know upon arriving on the doorstep of retirement, we're pretty well funded. That's the good news. The challenging news is figuring out a sequence of distribution, and that takes planning, important planning. Sequence of distribution is managing your allocation while taking money out of different accounts. More simply, that's deciding which account to tap and when. Let's start with a brief overview. What are the key differences between the different types of accounts that folks have?
Sure. If you kind of think about when you're saving for retirement, there are 4 basic types of accounts. There can be many more, but I think they fall into one of these 4 categories. And they differ in terms of your ability to take money out, so kind of the flexibility, and then also the tax treatment. So it's not just the tax treatment about when the money's in there, but when you take it out as well. The first one that most people are familiar with, they maybe had one when they first started investing, could be a taxable account. So it could be a brokerage account. It's taxable for a reason, because anything that you earn in there, if you realize a gain, so let's say you own a bond and it pays some interest, taxman wants his cut. If you sell a stock and you make a gain on that, the taxman wants a cut. You pay the taxes as you go. The thing is, those are also the most flexible. You can access that money whenever. Then you have your traditional IRA, traditional 401k. If you're in the nonprofit space, maybe it's a 403b. So the traditional one is you put money in there before paying taxes. Well, the government, they want to get that tax money when you take the money out then. That's treated as though it's ordinary income and taxed as such. But the nice thing is, the time between when you put the money in and you start taking it out, it can grow without tax consequences. Okay, then you have your Roth versions, which that's like the Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, and that is almost the exact opposite of the traditional one. You put in money after you've already paid the taxes instead of before. Great thing about those is it can grow tax-free, and when you take the money out, it comes out tax-free as well. So it's like the mirror image of the traditional one. And then you have also this thing called a health savings account. Those things are fantastic and oftentimes overlooked because those can have a triple tax advantage. Money that you put in can go in before tax. It can grow tax-free. And as long as you take out the money to pay for qualified medical expenses, it comes out tax-free as well.
So there we are, healthy nest egg, one we built over the years. How do we decide where to start?
Yeah, and that is where the planning really comes in. It's going to depend upon the individual situation. How much do you have in each one? What is your age? Are you required to take distributions? When it's a traditional IRA or 401k, you could hit that magic age where there are required minimum distributions because the government wants to start collecting their tax revenue from that. You really have to map it out. But a general rule is to think about, if you can, take it from that taxable account first to take advantage of the tax-free growth that you get in those other accounts. A lot of people are going to want to touch the Roth and the HSAs last, to let those grow the most. And oftentimes they're going to take more aggressive investing approaches in those types of accounts. Now, the HSAs, if you are going to be making those contributions to let it grow, remember, you have to really keep track of your qualified medical expenses. That means that when you put the money in, by the time you want to take it out, you better have your receipts, right? You don't have to have it for current medical expenses. It could be for past medical expenses as long as they were incurred after you started funding that account. So it does reward those people who are organized, which I know you certainly are, knowing you. And for me, I have a spreadsheet to keep track of it. But in terms of that basic sequence, think about taxable first, if you can, then the traditional, especially if it's the required minimum distribution, and then save for last those Roth and HSAs.
It's complicated stuff, and this is where people, they're not sure. We're talking about managing their asset allocation across these different accounts.
Yes, well, and that's the key thing I think that a lot of people forget about. It's not just about how is it that you take out the money, but then how do you allocate within there? Because if you have had a lot of equities going into your Roth or into your HSA, if you've taken money out of your more conservatively positioned accounts like the taxable and the traditional IRA, you probably want to reallocate. So when you're taking out the distributions, take that unified approach. Look across the accounts and see what's your overall picture. Don't look at it one account at a time in isolation, because as you're taking the money out of those more conservative accounts, your portfolio is getting more and more aggressive unless you take action to allocate it more aligned with your plans and your willingness and ability to take risk.
Hey, and if all this sounds great, but it's not something that's in your wheelhouse, no problem. Hire Annex to help you figure it out. That way, you live your life and you don't get bogged down in the areas where Pro can provide proper guidance. Brian Jacobsen, Chief Economist at Annex Wealth Management, thank you.
Thank you.